Hello and welcome back. This is the Sovablu Read, our take on technology and the modern enterprise. As always, this is Ani joining in from Tokyo, Japan. And again, from Amsterdam in the Netherlands, it's Luke. Hi, Luke. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Ani.
And we also have a very special guest today with us, Jose, joining in also from the Netherlands. And we'll get to know him a little bit more later on in the conversation. Welcome, Jose. Glad to have you on board today.
Thanks for having me.
Roger, we know each other probably 20 years?
Yeah.
A little bit less?
Give or take.
Yeah. And we met back then at Vodafone, the telco company in the Netherlands, but also across Europe. I was coming from a retail and digital angle, maybe digital in a very early stage. And I think we met over one of the amazing projects we were doing in the technology department. And I know you as someone who's very detailed and thorough, but on the other hand, also very business-minded. And that's why I loved working always with you. And I've seen making you steps in your career in the last couple of years. I think there's something with a book and speaking on stage. So could you elaborate a bit more on it and share more about your expertise?
Yeah, sure. It must have been around 2007, 2008, right? So a bit less than 20 years ago that we met. Back then I was a technology architect, but I had already discovered that technology isn't the holy grail. It's something else. We'll talk about that shortly. I figured that whatever you do, there must be a reason behind it, right? Because you can build the perfect technology solution, but if it doesn't deliver, if it doesn't function the way it should function, then what's the value of that? Perfection in technology doesn't mean that you help customers or employees or any other party do their job better or live a better life. So I was working at Vodafone back then. We were outsourced to a large multinational organization, 250,000 to 300,000 employees in the days, which was a totally different organization. And but still, I worked for this customer, Vodafone, and the key was keeping them happy, right? And keeping them happy meant keeping their customers
happy.
Keeping you happy, yes, definitely. So when we were outsourced, the whole dynamic for me in the organization changed because now suddenly my colleagues were my customers, and my former suppliers were now my own people. So that was interesting times. In the end, I decided to leave that organization and move into consulting, architecture consulting, which I've done in Europe, throughout Europe for many years. I was very happy about it. There was one thing nagging at me, however, something that I had at Vodafone that I didn't have as a consultant, which was suffering from your own mistakes. And the other thing was I didn't see the results of what I delivered. Because at Vodafone, if you made a mistake, you would feel the pain yourself, right? As a consultant, somebody else feels the pain because you've already left. And the other thing is, as a consultant, since I've already left the results of things that I decided or helped decide, the effects of those were happening months or years after the fact, depending on how large the transformation was. And that was nagging at me. So I went back to becoming an employee for what is now ASN Bank. I'm an enterprise architect there, and I have lots of fun with working for customers, not with customers. And at the same time, in my journey as a consultant, I started my own consulting, coaching, and training business called Sure Result. And I've been doing that since for the past 14 years, I think, 15 years, I don't remember. With a lot of pleasure because I still get to see some consulting engagement, some things that happen in other organizations that I still learn from today. So that was fun. And I think I'll stick to doing that for the next few years.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear because I see what you do and how you bring technology and the business closer together. And we need more people like you as an inspiration to think differently and be customer obsessed in the work and the deliverables we're creating.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing.
And you asked about the book as well. You mentioned the book. It's this one. Oh, sorry. Can't have my fingers in front of the text. The book that I wrote with an author that I very well respect, Thomas Earl from Vancouver, Canada. He's an established author, and he asked me, and I was privileged to be asked to write that book together with him. And there are a few key messages in the book that I think will resonate with you and with the audience. One thing is there is no such thing as an IT process or a back office internal process. They're either customer facing or customer oriented. And the other thing is that technology is always following what's needed in the business, a certain goal. It's not the goal itself.
And I think that's actually a great step towards my first question because, like you said, a little bit less than 20 years ago, technology looked different.
Definitely.
AI didn't exist. Automation existed. But even with the automation, we were maybe just starting to play around because one system would pick up information from another system and that would be processed, etc. And that was a new way of approaching technology and thinking about it. And a lot has happened in that time.
Oh, definitely.
What's your view on it? Like,
So let's frame where we were, right? So technology was large, big systems, slow, big integration middleware, release cycles measured in quarters and not in weeks. And architecture was a control function, often considered like security department of no. And but the deeper truth is that the customer was almost invisible in that architecture. Systems were organized around internal departments, billing, provisioning, CRM, you name it. And the customer experienced the seam between them. And what fundamentally changed, I think, is that the customer moved from the edge of the architecture to the center of it. Expectations set by the best digital experience anywhere now apply to every industry. And that same architecture question about systems and departments, it flipped now from how do we keep our system consistent to how do we serve our customers best? How do we make their journey seamless? And let the systems follow. So 20 years ago, I think we built systems around departments and the customer felt those seams. The biggest change is that today the customer is the organizing principle.
Yeah, true. And for me, the customer element was always key in everything we've been working on together. And I'm still doing today in the work I'm doing. And it's essential. And if you grasp that concept, how you can serve the customer or the employee, you can achieve much more even than when you solely focus on tech and see it as a closed bubble, because it can be so much more. It's an enabler for better experiences.
Oh, definitely. There is a story that comes to mind, and it's one that you and I share, I think. It's called NRSP, the new retail sales process. So early in our time together, before we built what became that process, the daily reality was online sales was one department, brand sales was another. They had different KPIs, ownership, processes, different systems. They didn't talk, and on paper, both were performing, right?
Yeah.
But a customer who started in an online order and walked into a store to finish it because of trouble in the online channel, they had to start all over again. They repeated everything, and not because the technology couldn't handle it, but because the organization wasn't built for that customer to exist in another channel. So in effect, those two channels were competing for the same customer. And obviously people notice. And that was the first time I saw Conway's Law in real life. The customer experience was a perfect mirror of the org chart. Organizational silos that become process silos and process silos that become a broken customer experience is what happened, right? So the architecture wasn't the cause, the structure was. And that lesson has shaped everything since then for me. I even talked about this phenomenon and how it's used at our advantage at London Imperial College a few years later. And that was a well-received story because of recognizing that organizational mess leads to process mess.
Agree.
Interestingly, if I may just step in, what you mentioned is so relatable for us here in Japan as well, because Japan has in principle moved on from 20 years ago, but a lot of the processes and the systems that were developed 40 years ago are still in use. So forget about 20 years; they're like a further 20 years behind. So I can relate to the situations you might have gone through 20 years ago, because I think here in Japan we're still going through the same thing to some extent.
So if I look around me, Japan is definitely not unique in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah.
And I think that also is what I see a lot lately is, leadership has an idea on the technology. They often choose a solution over what it should deliver. And depending on where you are or the company size, the gap is only bigger. Like they think they are going this direction with the technology, while on the ground, the people who are using it or the customers who need to experience the tech, they have a completely different view on it. How do you see this based on your work experience and also in your consulting role?
Yeah, so I think this is how what leadership says is different from what happens on the ground, right?
Yeah.
I think the gap is measured in customer terms, or should be. Leadership speaks the language of initiatives, so we're AI driven or data driven or what have you, cloud first, you name it. And the ground truth is that what a customer actually experiences. How long does it take to resolve a problem? How often do I have to repeat myself? Do I get a promise in one channel and can it be kept in another? But those are honest measures of architectural maturity. How long does it get one new piece of customer data from a core system into where it needs to be for the customer where he is interacting at that point in time? Is it there when they need it?
Yeah.
And the root cause is that leadership measures inputs, budgets, programs, tools bought, technology, because customer outcomes are harder to see from a boardroom, I think.
Yeah.
And the gap closes when programs are judged by what changed for the customer, not by what was delivered on time. I think every enterprise should have two report cards that are consciously understood. One is the one in the steering committee, and one is the one that all the customers write every day. And, well, I don't think I need to ask the question which one matters more.
Yeah.
And customers are often overlooked. And the customer can be anything. It can be a supplier who's using your tools, your integrations. It can be an internal client, an internal employee, maybe an external employee. Depending on the solution, it can have a various amount of customers who are always important. And I have an opinion about how to make a program or a transformation successful, like whether it delivers a real change or when it only starts generating costs and actually becomes not successful. How do you see this, Roger, in your experience and again in your last couple of years? Because even during our time at Vodafone, I think we had some big wins and some challenges to overcome.
Big learnings.
Yes, big learnings. That's the word.
Yes. Yeah, I think we wrote about this in our book also, by the way. It's the difference between two questions. Do you start from a customer outcome and work backwards?
Yes.
Or do you start from technology and look for a justification to have it?
Yeah.
Yes.
technology is an enabler, never the goal, and digital transformation only deserves the name transformation when it's truly transformative, not when you're restoring things that were broken and just fixing, putting band-aids on places that hurt. Data-driven, cloud first, whatever it should be, all that should be in service of a change relationship with the customer. And remove the customer from that equation, and you have just bought something that costs money.
Yeah.
But no change happened that matters, right? So I think it's wise to ask, in retrospect, 12 months after go live, 2 questions. One is what changed for the customer? And the other thing is, what did we stop doing? And if the answer is nothing or barely nothing to either or both, I think you just added a cost layer rather than transforming one.
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting point, because we also often see with many customers that they're changing a system for the sake of changing it. Not because, like you rightly said, not because it could have a transformative effect on the customer's experience, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
what ends up happening is that you've changed the system, but the problems remain unsolved. The customer remains unsatisfied. And end of the day, you just created a whole new set of problems instead of solving a critical one that was affecting the customer experience in the first place. So I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, that, do you choose technology first kind of an approach, or do you choose an impact, a business impact approach? I think that's a key point that we should keep in mind for sure.
Yeah, and I agree with Luke as well that you can substitute customer by employee or supplier or partner or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Roger, your book ties nicely into it, and it's almost a bit scary how you were able to write down my thoughts. So I'm not sure how that happened.
Telepathy.
Definitely. I think we are both very open and strong in the communication with partners and stakeholders. What's for you the key element to ensure that you or your colleagues are successful when saying, hey, I'm actually understanding both parties and you actually have some credibility in, bridging the gap between business and tech?
Yeah. So if we're a group of people or several groups of people that need to work together, the only way to bridge gaps is to share a same or a similar, the same reference point, if you will. And only one that all the parties genuinely respect is the customer. So the technologists and business leaders, they will argue endlessly in their own vocabularies. But this design cost the customer 2 extra days of waiting is something they all understand. And to be honest, I think it matters which partners you choose, right? Because partners that don't understand that dynamic are maybe not the best partners to team up with. And I know that's a hard thing or a firm statement to make, but I think it's key because only the joint effort will help us. The shared reference frame is key there. And people that don't see that key reference frame are not in the best position to help you out. So only one person in the organization is accountable for customer experience, right? But all of us are responsible for it. And we need to take our role in it. Me as an enterprise architect, and I don't know, 700 of my colleagues that do software delivery as well, but also our business partners that work with and for us. So
it's that customer obsessed culture that you need.
Yeah, and obsessed might
in a good, healthy way.
Yeah, might sound a bit negative, and it's not intended like that. I recognize that fully. So sitting credibly in both chairs means translating every architecture decision into customer and business consequences, and being willing to be held to it. So that responsibility also applies to me. I can't say, yes, but customer experience is your department and you need to fix it.
True. Roger, I recall when we were working together, we had to deal with a lot of legacy systems. I think one time we were at 200 plus, and maybe it was not specifically in the area that you and I were both working in, but generically in the company, which was causing also a lot of friction for many reasons. And sometimes you had those discoveries, something like literally fell out of a closet, like, oh, someone else is using a different tool for the same solution. How do you feel about what needs to change in that strategy, and also to, how do you manage as an enterprise your software estate?
There are many ways I can answer this question, but two aspects I think should be highlighted. One is stop managing the estate as an inventory of applications and start mapping it to customer and customer services. And I know I sound like a broken record here, customer, but it is what it is. It's at
good.
the heart of
Absolutely.
or it should be at the heart of every decision at least.
Absolutely.
Most enterprise can definitely list what they own, but they can likely not answer the question, which customer outcome does it influence? Or if you turn the system off, what happens to the customer experience? How is the customer influenced? If you can't answer those questions, that means you don't understand your customer journeys end to end. That means you're in trouble. And now the second part of the answer is you need a vocabulary that works for both business as well as IT.
Yes.
And I've had good experience with something called business capability mapping and capability-based planning, which is a fairly stable vocabulary about all the abilities an organization should have, and then the IT systems that support those.
Yes.
So if we all talk about the same, what do I need to do? Then we can figure out as we go how to improve the process of those what things and address the how. And that the same answer goes for IT and IT systems.
And to talk in tech, I always see that as a mapping table, because what you do is you mix the different languages and expectations, and you say, well, actually, we're talking about exactly the same, but we're using different terminology. And if it's a big learning, you even have different expectations on different terminology. And that's a tricky part when you're doing a large transformation.
No, true. But you made a very risky move, right? By mentioning mapping table to an architect.
It was oil on the fire
for mapping tables.
Yeah.
No, but I think I mean, everybody has their own. If you talk to business people about what do we have, what do we need, to talk about value streams, or at least they should. They talk about business processes, etc. And by bringing the capability map in and do a mapping from value stream to which capabilities do I need to support it, you have the discussion on how to support the business best. And architects or IT people in general, they understand the capability map if they can understand which processes run in it and which IT systems support it. So there you have your connecting tissue, if you will. And that also helps linking that execution to strategy later on or throughout time, maybe. So mapping table, yes. Maybe slightly a bit more elaborated, but common ground for both.
Yes. Yeah. And, working with legacy systems and creating technology debt in the enterprise, which is also tricky. We've been working on coming up with new solutions for standalone systems back then. I see a lot of leadership now talking about AI and we should use it, and they implement a tool, simply said, and then suddenly they realize it's not working. They do a rollback or whatever. Even if we don't talk about the customer, it's already often a painful experience.
Yes.
What do you see as a starting point to, try to avoid these situations?
So I think two dynamics are at play here. One is short-term versus long-term dynamics, short-term tactical or operational versus long-term strategic dynamics. And the other one is recognize that middleware or integration can have its own debt. Besides all the debt that is all out there in and between applications. Let's go with the first. So if I keep bolting on new functionality and only build new systems, I am increasing the size and complexity of my landscape. And that means I am slowing down any next change because of all the dependencies that I'm creating. Sometimes you need to clean up. A very real life example comes to mind. If I hire a landscaper to arrange my garden, and I can be very happy with that garden, right? But throughout time, I think I could maybe make a few improvements and put a new tree here or a new plant there. If I keep only adding new plants, then suddenly the garden is very full. It doesn't deliver me that calmness, but it gives me anxiety. The other thing is maintenance. If I let the weeds grow, and I don't take them out, in the end, it's just a very busy, very full, hard to maintain garden. And any change is a lot of work, right? You need to clear out areas of weeds, and you need to take out plants that were perfectly fine to put out other ones that are the new and shiny plants that you like today. And that reflects what happens in real life or in IT life, if you will. And the part about integration debt. So very often, especially with thick middleware, people build business functionality that floats in between applications. So a business application runs a process, needs some help from another process in another application. And to connect them, we build part of the process into the middleware. Who owns that? Who can make decisions? Who even has the knowledge after 5 years that this part of this process floats between applications without an owner? So nobody will clean up that mess because nobody feels responsible. Nobody is willing to put money against it. And customers suffer from it. There's that word again.
Yeah, and I think we see that the most in the banking industry. It's notorious for using systems that were built 30, 40 years ago. And, at some point in time, they built in this middleware to allow, newer systems to talk to these older systems. But then, like you rightly said, who takes ownership of these middleware systems or integration gateways per se? And then they're just left alone to rot. And till the time they break completely, nobody really looks at it again.
Yeah, and when it breaks, try and find the people that actually understand it to fix it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that leaves these organizations at a very vulnerable condition because now they are kind of almost desperate to bring about transformation, but then they don't have they don't have the time, they don't have the budgets, but the criticality keeps getting worse. So the whole situation escalates very rapidly.
Yeah, let me quickly put on my EA hat again. So if this happens, it's a business risk, right?
Yeah.
IT system risk leads to business risk.
Absolutely.
And business risk leads to poor customer experience. And that can even lead to reputational risk if you, for example, leak customer data unattendedly. And it can get worse from there. So is there really no budget to fix it? Or are we just ignoring the risk?
Yeah. Or are we putting the right value on or the cost of risk? How much do you stand to lose if a critical vulnerability happens? And like you said, if there is a data breach or a critical system collapse, what is the price of that consequence?
Very true.
Yeah.
And having reliable tools and software is key. And you also have the element where it needs to be reliable and change needs to happen quickly. Like the speed of new updates, rollouts, new functionalities, because the business and the customer, the client, they have expectations, they have needs, the world is changing. So what organizations know how to do it right? Because often people look at the new organizations. Well, actually, the organizations that are in business for many years, they also have a challenge. But you see that some of them know to flip the coin and actually change and become speedy again in new functionalities and rollouts. How do you see it, Roger?
I think it's related to facing the ugly truth. If you talk about I would say unready organizations, they talk about technology and ask which tool to buy. And readiness sounds like self-knowledge in service of the customer. But unreadiness sounds like shopping. Which next initiative should we start? But where's the customer in that equation, right? Ready organizations, they talk about their customers and their own constraints. And they know where their data is weak or systems break or when their journeys are broken and what they'll have to stop doing. There is also a tell that always has helped me ask, who has the authority to change an end-to-end customer journey that crosses departments? And if the answer is a committee, nobody owns the challenge. Nobody owns the challenge. Structural change doesn't happen. So ready organizations, I think, open with their customers' problems, and unready organizations, they open with a short list of vendors or projects or initiatives. Yeah.
I think that brings me to a kind of an interesting question, because you've literally written the book on it, which is the topic of digital transformation as an overall idea. I think it connects to what you were just mentioning. That is digital transformation just kind of identifying the smaller problems that plague your system and addressing them one by one so that you have a larger fix to the problem, or do you just take it a top aerial view and fix the first problem that you notice, not necessarily the most important one? You patch that up with a band-aid and you move on till the next problem opens up. So do you see, from your point of view, where you stand based on your experience, how has a typical European enterprise approached digital transformation? And if you look at it, it started about 20 years ago, the whole idea of digital transformation. So which direction is it going? What path has it taken? What's your take on that?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, and it covers so many things. So there are the organizations that succeeded, and there are the organizations that are perpetually struggling, right? Ideally, the world sounds simple. Technology is a means to and not an end. Which could be a punchline for a really cool song, by the way. But the book writes about this, and it sets two terms, or it introduces two terms. One is renovation, and the other one is transformation. Renovation is fixing things that are broken, and transformation is rethinking and reorganizing things so that you don't end up with broken situations. And especially these days where AI is introduced, renovation having the same processes, the same services, the same relationship with the customer, and add a model on top of that called AI and thinking it's a solution, it's a challenge in itself. Because that's building on brittle foundation, right? You have your data issues, you bolt AI on it, and it just magnifies those issues. AI needs lots and lots of data. Without data, AI can't even function. So if you feed it the wrong stuff, garbage in is garbage out, right? Or garbage in once is 10 times garbage out, because AI amplifies the problem. So as long as, and there's that word again, transformation is measured at the customer level and not in the technology level, or with cool initiatives like AI, those organizations should be in good shape. And there are a few that have understood that dynamic. Remember that world Loek and I described at the start, online and in-store as separate departments? So that customer, he crossed channel boundaries, he crossed departmental boundaries. And that process that we helped build was the answer to exactly that. So it wasn't fixing the two departments independently, it was making sure that the process spanned both departments seamlessly. So for the first time, a customer could start the purchase in one channel and finish it elsewhere without repeating a single thing. Yeah, maybe identifying themselves, this is me, but that's it. So that has been my benchmark for transformation ever since.
So then let me ask the next question. Now, this is more related to AI, because that's wherever you look at today, you find those two alphabets on your screen or on posters or anywhere else. And what I see is that AI is now being looked at as a silver bullet, a solution to every problem that the world faces. But in your day-to-day experience and with what you're doing, what do you see happening in the world of AI, and how does it uh, frame up to solving the problems that you're trying to solve through digital transformation?
Yeah. So digital transformation is just any business transformation, right? Only in a modern code, if you will. AI is seen as a new transformation, but AI in itself doesn't transform. It just helps you do things in a different way, or helps you weigh options faster, or helps you execute faster. So AI can definitely help do things faster and cheaper, and that's what you see happening in the market in many places. But how cool would it be if you would use AI somewhere else? I mean, if you use AI to if you use AI to help speed up or improve operations, you're actually just renovating, right? With the terminology that we just established.
Yeah.
And but if you want to be transformative, then you need to apply AI somewhere else, maybe on the tactical or strategic level. Maybe AI can help you figure out where to play in the market on a strategic level, or maybe AI can help you restructure processes or transform the entire process landscape before you actually think about how to operate that. That means you get much more value with all the knowledge that is comprised in AI, LLMs, and what have you. And I'm very much aware that AI is broader field than just that. But since the contemporary talk about AI is almost always LLMs and agentic AI and what have you, I think stop doing it operationally only and apply it tactical and strategic level as well. And obviously check results.
I think that last point was very critical because these days there's a lot of AI adoption without any guardrails. We always talk about the human in the loop idea, right? And this is a very conscious thing that we have also done with our platform. That yes, we have the AI tools, we have the AI superpowers that you can utilize, but there is always human intervention. Nothing goes live without a process of human intervention, and then confirming that the changes that were supposed to be made have actually been made, and then you kind of move forward. So AI is more of an accelerant here rather than the creature that's kind of taking all the decisions and executing all the activities. So that's a great point. So before we wrap this up, I have one final question, because this kind of really relates to a very important aspect, which is the cost of licenses in a typical enterprise software purchase decision, or cost of ownership. License cost is always a big thing, and so there's always this question regarding: do you buy or do you build, right? So how do you answer that question from your point of view?
Yeah, this is a TCO question. I think the license fee itself was never the issue, or at least it shouldn't be. The question is whether the scarce budgets and corresponding engineering attention goes where it should go. The honest unit of cost is customer time. Every quarter spent building undifferentiated plumbing is a quarter the customer keeps living with their broken journey that you set out to fix. And I would say every architect should live by a rule or a principle: build only where being different wins customers, and buy or assemble anything else where being standard is key, or the whole point. And be brutally honest, and this is where the real challenge lies. Be brutally honest about which is which, because many organizations overestimate how special their plumbing is. So the real cost of building everything in-house isn't the budget, it's the 18 months the customer is waiting for you.
And I think that's a great point, because that if there are ways to speed up that whole process, whether by the use of technology or AI or any other methodology, I think that is where the key win is for the organization, that you can get the best of both worlds. You can build, but you don't have to spend 18 months. You can actually build much faster in a much shorter period of time. So I think that's where we also come into the picture with our platform. And when we speak to our customers, when they're asking this question, we can always go for a SaaS solution. Why do we need to build it ourselves? Or we've made that decision to build, but then what is the right approach? So we fill in that sweet spot. You can get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and if building the software yourself sets you apart in the market and it's your
Yeah.
right to exist,
Yeah,
then by all means do it. But
absolutely.
if it's so-called commodity,
Yeah,
then why would you spend so many months on it if it's
yeah,
already solved by somebody else with an off-shelf
yeah,
solution?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Roger, I've been excited about this video podcast because we worked so well a little bit less than 20 years ago, and it was great talking to you again. And I see the work you've done and the progress, and still you're the same person with the same wonderful ideas and on how software in an enterprise environment can be architecturally, designed and worked out. What's your feel on this conversation and what we've been chatting about today?
I'm very happy with the way this podcast turned out. Obviously, I already know 20 years ago that if we would ever have a podcast, that the keyword would be customer. And as part of, let's say, famous last words, I think it's good to state the fact that before anyone decides what to build next, sit with two honest pictures. One is, what does my customer actually need? And the other one is, what do I have today? And what's the gap? Every success I've seen started with those two truths. Every failure started with technology looking for a reason. So technology is and stays the means. It never was the end. The customer is. So finding the gap is key to fixing it.
I think we've covered quite a bit of ground there on multiple topics. We started somewhere and we've come to a point where we have a much more clearer understanding of digital transformation from your point of view, Hoje. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you've had a wonderful time talking to us as well.
Same pleasure being here.
Yeah. And Luke, thanks again for your support from Amsterdam. So both of you, thank you very much for joining today, and to everybody joining us on this podcast. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you again next time. So this was the Sovablu Read, our take on technology and the modern enterprise. Till next time, goodbye. Thank you, everybody.